Thank you.
There is 1 host and 6 participants in this conference.
Okay, 6 on the conference call and 6 of us here. Welcome, everybody. I did get one topic for discussion suggested in an email, and so I think we'll start there, and then be interested in finding out after that if anybody else has something they'd like to talk about. The question says, "Hey Lee, can you talk about impersonalization and the belief in 2 powers?" And yeah, for sure. These are just core principles in the infinite way. And they're really not necessarily connected. So let's talk about impersonalization first of all. All there is consciousness, is God expressing itself as individual being. So there is only one person, or I guess really there is no person. There's just expressions of the one being, of beingness itself, and everybody that we think of as a person is really an expression of what is the one being. We talk in kid work about impersonalizing the perpetrator, and that's one case where we see this. The perpetrator, the one who's reading your script, is doing it totally impersonally. That individualization of God is merely doing what it is doing. The image I have is of this individual who is at a certain level of ignorance. It started totally ignorant, this unfolding of ourselves as individualizations of God. That's the process that is unfolding to us, the realization of ourselves as individualizations of God, not as separate people, separate personalities. And the perpetrator in the script and kid work is merely one of these individualizations that has had a certain amount of its reality revealed to itself, and a great deal not. It is primarily ignorant, or it would not be doing unloving things. And it's part of the normal unfolding of that particular individualization of God. In all the places where it is ignorant, i.e. not yet self-realized, it is having it's being conditioned by all the beliefs in Chubb, by all the beliefs that all the other collective humanity has, and so and the word just came to me, infested. Like this poor ignorant individualization of God is being infested with the concepts of Chubb, and it believes them and acts according to them, and some of those conditionings or beliefs that are concepts that Chubb infests it with cause it to behave in the way it's behaving. So all of this is still absolutely impersonal, and all that's there is an individualization of God at a particular level of unfoldment, at a particular level of self-realization, and a very low one. Impersonalization is a important word in Joel's healing principles, the three basic principles of healing, or we now call it revealing. The first one is that there is only one power, God, and God is harmonious and all that kind of thing. And the second principle is impersonalization, and what that means is that the disease that I see on the person, or the lack or limitation, or whatever the reason is that the person being brought to for a revealing, that is not personal to the person, that again is just part of the Chubb infestation. That this person is reflecting the Chubb viewpoints in Chubb concepts in the area in which it's ignorant. And so the person has no responsibility at all for whatever problems it's reflecting. I mean, the person is not responsible for the diseases it's reflecting, or the lack it's experiencing, or the poor personality traits it's experiencing, or the hatred that it may be experiencing. Hitler had no responsibility at all for the way he, for what he instigated in Germany. He was just, an ignorant victim of a Chubb infestation of some really bad ideas, really bad concepts. And so that's what impersonalization means there with respect to healing. And then of course the next point is, by impersonalizing it, we've taken the disease or lack and limitation or whatever the problem is out of the person and dumped it back into Chubb. And then the third part of the revealing process is to realize the nothing, he calls it nothingizing, realize the nothingness of Chubb. And what this boils down to is to understand that what you're seeing is a belief that has no power. Chubb does not have the power to to infest a person. It was all done totally in ignorance. Here are all these available concepts, and the individualization of God in its ignorance resonated with certain of these Chubb beliefs, and they became part of its experience. And so, but none of that was done with any power, and had it not been ignorant, it would not have related to that particular concept, would not have picked up that or resonated with it or picked up that concept. It would have had a higher understanding about that particular area and would not have exhibited or experienced that particular concept. So, so Chubb is powerless, but sort of like the default is Chubb infestation, and it seems to not be powerless just because of the great strength of media and advertising and all of that. It's constantly being offered to us, and it can be turned down if we're not ignorant. So it's not powerless. It's not powerful in that it cannot force itself upon us, but it appears to be powerful in that just due to its omnipresence. There was something else there. Oh, and it also, there's no power that's maintaining that disease or lack or limitation or problem as part of the person's being, because it's not really part of his being, or her being. It's the Chubb conditioning that we're seeing. So there's nothing sustaining it there. So theoretically, all healings or revealings could be instantaneous, since there's no power projecting it there and there's no power sustaining it there, that could be dissolved instantaneously with a moment of clarity, and requires, of course, attaining a sufficient level of clarity to completely drop that piece of conditioning so that it's no longer part of our being. That may cover it. As far as impersonalization, as soon as I stop talking, we'll open it up immediately and see if there are any questions you people have about it. But let's hit the other. The other comment here was about the belief in two powers. Joel talks a lot about the belief in two powers, and really it's the belief in any power other than God. It's not. He talks about the belief in good and evil. But the problem is the belief that anything other than God has a power. That anything in the external world, the world of our experience, is causative and can has any power to make anything happen to us or anything else. The whole point is that spiritually speaking, and by spiritually speaking I mean not materially and not mentally, spiritually speaking, everything that we experience as, quote, out there, end quote, is an effect of consciousness, an expression of consciousness. And they're all expression, all effects, and none of them are causes, so there's no cause and effect in the world in reality. The images that Robert used to give us is if you're watching a cartoon on a movie screen and you see one guy in the cartoon do something to somebody else in the cartoon, and there's cause and effect up there, it looks like, but the fact is there's not cause and effect up there. The guy doing the thing, the guy it's being done to, and the thing that's being done are all part of the movie, and it's all part of the expression of the movie, and nothing on the screen has any is a cause. You're just watching the effect of the movie. You're not watching individual things on the screen causing other individual things on the screen to happen. Everything we see, experience, taste, touch, smell, think is an effect of consciousness and is not a cause, and so cannot be a power. And so there is in fact only one power, the movie, which is being projected on the screen, or in our case God, which is being projected as all these individual beings. That's the only power. And all the other things that we see as powers are things we imagine to be powers. This again is the Chubb conditioning coming in, and because we believe that these other things have power, they look like that to us. Back to believing and seeing. She goes on to say, seems there would be a lot less anxiety in my life if I experienced everything I see as individualizations of God. Absolutely there would. Absolutely there would. If you know it's all God, then if it had a power, it would be a loving power, but it's not. But if it was all God, then you would see nothing but harmonious acts, except insofar as they're being ignorant. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to stop there, and it's wide open, and I'd love any questions about personalization, or more than one power, or Chubb, or good and evil. Right now, let's do that initially, and then we'll move on to anything else. So anybody that would like to jump in and speak up or ask questions, please do so.
Kate.
Hey, Kate.
Hey. So I'm having trouble with the idea that God is good. And I've heard Joel over and over talk about the first chapter of Genesis, and God made all that was made, and everything God made was good. And I'm pretty sure it's just conditioning that I don't believe that, and when I find myself relaxing into that, saying, okay, maybe I'll believe that, then I'm looking over my shoulder, and so I don't know how to convince the conditioned part of me that God is good, and there's only God, and so there's only the good of God, and I'm not sure if I should just be seeking to bypass that altogether. Yeah, so I get myself kind of wound up about that. So if you could talk about that a little bit, I appreciate it.
Great. That's absolutely the core of the whole thing. Because what we see is not good. We see evil, we see lack, we see man's inhumanity to man, we see death, sickness, disease, blah, 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 blah. So what we're continually seeing, unless we were some amazing saint, is not good. And that's the whole point. It's so hard to talk about, to say it in a way that makes sense. Yeah, I'm very handicapped because I like things to make sense, So I want there to be sequential thoughts.
Yeah, me too.
I want sequential thoughts that have meaning. God is the only existence, okay? All there is God. All there is consciousness. All there is this consciousness that's expressing ourselves, and that consciousness is outside of time and outside of space, and there being no time or space is absolutely harmonious, and so even the word good doesn't have much meaning here, but it certainly is harmonious and peaceful, and I like the word blissful, that it's a state of bliss, if you can think of bliss as a transcendental state, way above happiness, way above joy, a state of bliss where there's no time and there's just nothing but bliss, well-beingness. And this is the state that God really, this is what God really is. And that's the first chapter of Genesis, as I understand it. Now the second chapter, now God then is, I'm not going to say decided to express itself, because that would be in time, but God is also expressing itself as experience, because as we've talked about before, consciousness and experience are the same. There's no difference between what I'm conscious of and what I'm experiencing. If I'm not experiencing it, it's not in my consciousness, and if it's in my consciousness, I'm experiencing it, So somehow, part of the deal is that God is expressed and experienced. And this is taking place in mind. And this is the second chapter of Genesis. And in order for God to, in order for there to be experience, we require duration in which the experience can take place, and space in which the experience can take place. So God experiencing itself takes place in space and time, which is really the definition of mind. So it takes place in this mind asset of itself. Now, as I said before, if you're going to express yourself as an oak tree, you have to express yourself also as an acorn, and as a sprout, and as a sapling, and as a tree with blossoms, and as a tree with eventually acorns on it, and etc., etc. The full expression of every individualization includes beginning point and a flowering into the full expression. Babies are born and become adults. Little animals are born and become big animals. Plants start as seeds, on and on and on. Barbara Mull did a whole thing. Everything is born in its, she said, born in its simplest form, or is born ignorant. And that especially includes people. We are born ignorant, which doesn't mean evil. It just means that we have no concepts at all. And we have, and you can sort of see it in the development of the human race, you know. We had no understanding of anything around us, and so we invented gods and to explain the natural phenomena that we couldn't explain, and slowly we developed more and more sophisticated gods, and slowly the process has been one of realizing more and more what God is, and as we get closer to realizing what God is, we become more and more realizing that God is us, and this is the process of self-realization, and the whole process is, this is what I try to refer to as omni-activity, the fourth omni. The process of omni-activity is the unfolding more and more of the nature of God to the individualizations of God, so that each individualization of God is having more of its nature revealed to itself through God and through the other individualizations of God. Now over in this process, Chubb comes in with all its false concepts, because once you have a concept, you have a limited concept, and now you have the not of the concept, and now all of a sudden the possibility of error and incorrect concepts and falsity and stuff like that is introduced. And we've talked about believing is seeing, which is to say, if it's in your consciousness, that's your experience. And so now, because of the ignorant level we're at, we have concepts that include right and wrong and good and evil and stuff like that. And these concepts that we have of evil things are expressed in our experience. And they're not of the nature of God, and they're not real, they're totally imagined, just as exactly like a dream at night, they're totally imagined, and they have nothing to do with God. The more God is introduced into our dream, the more accurate the dream will be, and the less of disharmony and man giving humanity to man and stuff like that will be there. But the not good is lack of God, lack of self-realization, lack of God realization, lack of the expression of realization. And Joel talks in a few of the recent tapes even, his whole purpose in his quest that led to the infinite way was trying to explain why there is no God in human experience, and it was very clear to him that there was no God in human experience, and it should be very clear to 7 billion people that there's no, it's just incredible. We're like ostriches with our heads stuck in the sand. We have been praying for world peace for 7,000 years, through all forms of prayer imagined, through all forms of religions, and through everything from human sacrifice to on and on and on, endless types of prayer. We have exhausted the possibilities of prayer, and world peace has not happened. The prayer doesn't happen because God is not listening to prayer. There is no God in the human experience, is what Joel's eventual conclusion was. And the human experience is entirely the experience that is manufactured in our mind, that is imagined by us based on the Chubb concepts that are being continually broadcast to us. So, God is good, and God's creation is good, but you're not seeing it. You're not seeing spiritual bodies, you're seeing material concepts of bodies, because that's the level of consciousness we're operating at, and that's the level of consciousness that Chubb is operating at. So we're seeing material concepts of the spiritual beings that we are, and these material concepts are not necessarily all good. That which they are concepts of is good. So I have a body here that's got right and wrong and good and bad and pain and non-pain in it, and that's my concept of a body, which is good. The problem is that I'm not seeing it clearly. So it's my concept that contains the not good, and it's an indication that I need more light. Does that help any at all, Kate? And maybe if you listen to that ramble, if you listen to that ramble a few times, it might help.
It helps a lot, and
you're not seeing God. When you're seeing ungood, you're not seeing God. You're seeing Chubb's concept of God.
yeah, and could that be said another way? If I'm not seeing the wholeness, I'm not seeing the, if we go above good and bad, then perhaps there's God is whole rather than fragmented, and what we're seeing is fragmentation.
Exactly.
Okay, so is it possible that a fifth omni could be omni-love, or omni-complete? Anyway, I'm going to get myself into a cul-de-sac, but that was very helpful.
Yeah, love, everybody says God is love, which means that God is the ultimate in narcissus, which, narcissism.
Yeah.
I mean, what can God love except itself, since all there is God? But the fact is that that's why I keep talking about the fact that God is in some state of total bliss. And and it loves being blissful. Okay, we can say that. These are all human concepts now, and you have probably no relationship at all to God. But I think of God as being blissful and loving it. And the blissful it is the fulfilled expression of itself is bringing it this bliss. The bliss that it experiences is the fulfilled expression of itself. And the reassuring thing for us is that as we become more and more self-realized, as we have more of ourself revealed to us, we are going to see more and more of our fulfilled, blissful, joyful self. So the really good news is that the direction of all this thing is in the right direction. All of us are unfolding, and all of us we are unfolding towards fulfilled expressions of whatever it is that we are individualizations of God expressing. So
excellent.
If you're a sculptor, then the fulfillment is a good piece of sculpture. If you're a painter, the fulfillment is in a great painting. If you're a musician, the fulfillment is in a great musical composition. If you're a healer, the fulfillment would be in the healing consciousness. And all of us are unique expressions of God, expressing some faculty or some aspect of God, and all of us are in fact fulfilled expressions of God, although in a stage of ourselves between the acorn and the oak tree. The oak tree is the fulfilled stage, and the acorn and the sprout is the unfulfilled state, and we're seeing ourselves as some level of unfulfilled state, just because we have not yet had enough of ourselves revealed to us. Our self-realization is not sufficient. That make sense?
Yes, yeah, as much as I can understand at this point in my development, that was awesome, thank you.
Okay, listen to that a few times, let that soak in, because I have when I'm saying that, you know, I can't find the right words to say it, but I have in me a real clear picture of how blissful the whole thing is, you know, and how joyful it is, and if that's that consciousness that I'm talking from is the one that will soak into you if you listen to this short segment of the class a few times, you know, let it soak in. Hear what I'm saying.
I will, yes. Thank you.
Without judgment as to whether you're believing it or not, just hear what I'm saying, let it in, you know?
Yeah, that's the trick, and yeah. So I will do that. Thank you.
It's all good, and it's all going to a place that none of it, that is so joyful that none of us can imagine it. You know, it's all good, and it's all progressing towards individual bliss for all of us, and that's all it can be. And as Robert would say, regardless of what you see, you know, regardless of what we're seeing now, which is our concept of it.
Yeah, and at this point in my development, that is very reassuring.
Yeah, and we need stuff like that because, you know, because prayer doesn't work. Looks like, you know, and it looks like there's terrorists out there. It looks like there's bullets, and you know, it looks like that's not true. And what we need to do is let this soak into us that what we're seeing is choke concepts and not seeing God, and that all there is God, and that the nature of omni-activity is that inevitably each of us individualizations of God will realize that we are a fulfilled realization of God, individualization of God. But yeah, it's nice to fall back on that, you know? Nice to meditate on that for a while until you can develop some trust in it.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Anybody else on impersonalization or powers other than God or anything like that? Well, I guess we'll take a break then for 5 minutes, and we'll start up again at 5 minutes before the hour, since that's a short session, and then we'll talk about just anything at all for the second half.